Greetings, book lovers, and welcome to Author-ized. Today's guest is Estelle Laure, who's the author of the young adult novel This Raging Light, which has been widely acclaimed and widely translated throughout the world. She also has the forthcoming novel due out in April, But Then I Came Back. Estelle holds an MFA in writing for children and young adults from Vermont College of Fine Arts, is an agency associate at Folio Literary Management, and thinks everyone should have to wait tables or work in a kitchen at least once in their lives in order to be better people. She lives in Taos, New Mexico with her family, where it's easy to believe in love and magic and the power of facing hard truths, which she does. Welcome to Author-ized, Estelle.
Thank you so much for having me.
I just want to take a moment and read some excerpts of some reviews because they are really something. For This Raging Light, from Kirkus Reviews. Heartbreakingly hopeful, lyrically told. From Book Riot. Estelle Laure's prose is utterly gorgeous, even as it lays out the story of a girl dealing with the failings of her parents, death, and her own insecurities. From Hornbook. Laure's debut stands out for her keen understanding of the spectrum of human emotions and her ability to put tough feelings into beautiful prose. And finally, from entertainmentweekly.com, Estelle Laure's This Raging Light might be YA, but it's got plenty of grown-up appeal. And that made me think of a question just at the last minute. Have you found a lot of crossover of adults reading? We know that a lot of adults either openly or secretly read YA fiction. Have you found that to be true?
I would say that the bulk of the letters that I get are from teenagers, but I think that is because teenagers want to reach out and make contact. But I've had a lot of people that I know say that it's the first book that they'd read in a long time. You know, people who don't usually read a lot had fun reading it. And obviously when you go to festivals and things like that, you're mostly interfacing with adults. It's mostly booksellers, teachers, librarians, you know. So I have gotten a lot of good adult feedback. I would be curious to see who's actually picking it up off the table at Barnes and Noble or, you know, an independent bookstore.
Or perhaps out of a display at a library.
Exactly. Who knows? I want to be a fly on the wall.
Secret shopper. In researching you a little bit, I see that you moved to the United States from Europe. What country did you come from?
I was born in Versailles, actually, just outside of Paris, not in the castle, unfortunately. And then my parents moved to London. So my father is French and my mother is half French, half American. And they had an argument about whether to move to the United States or Africa, where my father grew up, and my mother won the argument. So that's how we wound up in the U.S.
9 schools in 11 years.
True.
So a lot of moving. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you think that helped shape your writing.
I think it helped shape everything because I'm very aware of change, and I'm very aware of the fact that you basically can't hold on to anything in life. I mean, I think I battle with a constant search for stability, and I think that is something that serves me in my writing because, you know, I'm adaptable. I've had to change so much throughout my life, and I think that's why I'm drawn to writing for teenagers specifically, because I think teenagers are constantly, I mean, just day to day, they're changing. Their bodies are changing, their perspective is changing, they're experiencing all of those firsts, first love, first heartbreak, you know, the first inklings that maybe adults don't have it as together as they would like to. You know, all of those things are happening and things are changing on a daily basis. So it is a really exciting time to write about. And I think those experiences that I had constantly having to change as a child and as a teenager have made it so that time is very accessible to me.
So I want you to tell us a little bit about This Raging Light, but I want to know, Did you get any rejections, or was This Raging Light bought immediately by a publisher?
I was very fortunate. I was working as an intern for Emily Van Beek, who's also my agent, and I sent her the first 75 pages. Maybe, once my internship became a job. So as the internship ended, she said, "Do you have anything to show me?" So I gave her the first 75 pages, and she signed me that day. And then we went through a couple of edits, just the two of us, and then she went out to, I think it was a list of maybe 10 editors, and it was sold within a week.
Wow.
It was like a fairy tale. And it didn't go to auction, but it was going back and forth between two people, and I got so nervous, I pulled the plug. But I think that it was really, great experience and very unusual.
It's been translated, sold, the rights sold. It looked to me like something like 10 different languages.
Right.
So, did you have any inkling that it was going to be this successful?
I didn't, and I'm on the other side of the desk, so I see the deals being made all the time, and I get what happens. Like, some word gets out that something is interesting, and then all the scouts want to see it, and word spreads. It's like, and I was very, very fortunate because that happened with This Raging Light. And so before the book even came out, I had all of these foreign deals, and
wow.
It was this really, I've never been so terrified in my life. It was like, as these things were happening, I was so shocked. I was so shocked that I was practically knocked out of my body. I could not believe it. And knowing that it's such a very small percentage of writers who ever have that experience, I will forever be grateful for it. And I don't know if I'll ever experience anything like it again, You don't know.
So tell us a little bit about the book.
So This Raging Light is the one you want to focus on. Do you want to know about that one first?
Well, we can talk about them both.
Okay. They both exist in the same world. This Raging Light is about a girl named Lucille Bennett, whose parents have a huge blowout. Her father has a nervous breakdown, and this all happens very publicly in the middle of the street in a very small neighborhood in New Jersey. And both parents end up leaving in different ways. The father is taken away, and the mother cannot handle what is happening, and she says she's going on vacation and then does not come back. And so Lucille is left in a home that's kind of falling apart with her younger sister Ren to take care of the situation and somehow survive. And simultaneously, she falls crazy in love with her best friend's brother. So it's sort of this thing, I really wanted to explore the dichotomy of tragedy, how there can be these great tragedies, and then there can be also great emotion and beauty that comes out of tragedy. So that's kind of what I was looking at.
Just to be shallow, how did you land the book in New Jersey?
I lived in New Jersey for 10 years.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I lived in Lambertville.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very sweet town.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my first and only experience in my lifetime so far of living somewhere that was sort of Rockwellian, mm-hmm. where neighbors took care of each other. If someone got hurt, everyone was involved. If someone's house burned down, everyone collected clothing, and where I live now, Taos is a great community, but it's more rural. It's more like, stay off my property, kind of. And living in New Jersey in Lambertville, it was this very neighborhoody fishbowl kind of existence. And so when I wanted to set the book, I thought, what would be the most challenging place to have something like that happen? Really, it's somewhere like that where everybody's in your business. Everybody can see in your front door. So how do you hide the fact that you're abandoned? How do you live through the fact that the whole town saw your dad go crazy in front of your house? I mean, here at my house, that could happen outside my front yard. No one would know. Mm-hmm. So,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so your next YA novel, But Then I Came Back, due out in April. I really want to hear about that. You said they're in this, both novels are in the same
Yeah,
world.
so in my main character in This Raging Light is Lucille, and her best friend is Eden. And I picked up Eden's perspective but then I came back. I thought it would be really interesting as a writer. You know, people are always very worried about their secondary characters being fully formed and three-dimensional, and so I thought it would be really interesting to try to write a book from what was a secondary character in the first one, and keep the worlds linked, so that people could have some answers to questions they still had at the end of This Raging Light. Because I got so many letters that were like, "What? You can't just leave it there," you know. So I tried to kind of fill those in the blanks for people while taking on another story. Yeah.
And what is that story about?
So in This Raging Light, there's gonna have to be a spoiler here. I can't really talk about the second one without spoiling something, but Eden has an accident.
Okay.
In the first book, and so the second book is about her recovery from that accident, and it has a lot of magical realism elements to it, because when she comes back from her accident, her brain has been kind of jogged, and she's not sure whether she is going crazy or whether she is, or whether she's actually seeing the things that she's seeing.
I'm sure that authors spend a lot of time selecting their names. So, Eden?
Well, Eden in the first book was very symbolic to me, because for me, she was a symbol of strength and of hope and of love and independence and power. I mean, she, for me, was all the things that Lucille was aspiring toward. So obviously there's the Garden of Eden, and it's just a name that came to me that was strong. You know, it felt like the strong female, powerful name. Yeah.
So you talked about it a few minutes ago, but I wanted to ask, how did you evolve into a YA author?
Well, there wasn't much of an evolution. That is where I landed. I think now I know a lot about the publishing industry. At the time when I started, I didn't know anything. And it was just the age of the people who came to me for the stories. Like, if I was thinking of a story, they're always 16. You know, they're always 16, 17. I just wrote a picture book that was really, really fun. But when bigger ideas come to me, they tend to come at that age. They don't come at 40. And because things are categorized mainly these days by the age of the protagonist. That's what determines what shelf they fall into. So that's just kind of where I landed. My friend Matt de la Pena told me when he wrote his first book, Ball Don't Lie, and he got it published, I think it was Bloomsbury, they said, "Great, we're going to place you in YA." And he said he went home and looked up what YA was. And it was sort of like that for me. I had written a book before I understood even how to orient myself.
So who are some of the authors that have influenced you?
Oh my gosh. I mean, Jandy Nelson is one of my very favorites when it comes to young adults. Matt de la Pena, who I mentioned, I was lucky enough to have him as a mentor, and he really helped shape my writing, I think. I'm a huge fan of Rainbow Rowell. I'm a huge fan of Co Booth. I think there's such a rich world of young adult authors available to teenagers now. They're so lucky. For me, it's like, a jump from C.S. Lewis and Tolkien straight into adult books, because there really wasn't much of an in-between. There were some, but there wasn't much. And now, there's this whole teen culture, and there are people who are incredibly talented and who could write anything. If you allow me to rant for 1 second,
Please.
I get so touchy when people treat young adult like it's adult literature light. It's not. it's in a way, it's like an umbilical cord straight into a certain issue or theme, because teenagers can smell BS from a mile away and they run from it. So it's like, actually, when you're writing for teenagers, you are forced to be really in the moment and really visceral, because they won't stand for anything else. So there isn't time to like describe 20 flowers in the garden like you could in adult literature. Anyway, adult influences, I'm going to say Sylvia Plath, Anne Patchett, Louise Erdrich. I'm looking at my bookshelf right now. Mary Carr, Jonathan Franzen. I mean, I love to read adult literature. Cormac McCarthy. I could go on and on. I read constantly. I try to read 2 or 3 books a week.
Do you write full time now?
I don't. I have not given up my job at Folio. It keeps growing, and I'm very attached to it. And I've been working with these authors now for 4 years, and I really love editing. And I'm doing developmental editing, so it's fun, talking plot and theme and stakes and all those things. And so maybe one day I will, but for now, my job at Folio grows. So as long as it's growing, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite fictional character?
In all the world?
In all the world.
Oh my gosh. I don't have one that sticks out. I think, well, actually, maybe Deli from The Outsiders. I think The Outsiders was really like, I was trying to think about it because I've been doing a little teaching at my daughter's school just for fun. And
how old is your daughter?
She's almost 13. So I'm doing 7th and 8th grade writing just for a couple weeks because it's the end of their semester. But I was trying to tell them that there used to not be YA books. And I think The Outsiders really maybe the first YA book, right?
You know who else I'm thinking of when you said that? I'm thinking of Paul Zindel also.
Yes.
My Darling, My Hamburger.
Yes.
When I was a young librarian, that was huge because there wasn't a whole lot of other stuff.
And the Chocolate War,
yes.
Cormier, his stuff also was really around like in the 70s.
Yep.
But I hooked on to The Outsiders like crazy. And Dali, for some reason, just stuck with me. Like, he is kind of the ultimate, he's a bad boy, very bad, but, with that heart of loyalty. Like, he's a criminal, but he's so loyal. And that's what makes him so amazing.
So did I hear you say you've written a picture book?
I did. It's not sold yet, so I probably didn't even talk about it. But I did have the experience of writing a picture book, and I loved it. I thought it was so fun. And, the best part about it for me was trying to figure out how to say as little as possible so that the art could speak, but still to convey. It's like writing a poem or something like that. I had a great time writing it.
Fabulous. So is there anything else you want your readers and people watching today to know about you or your work?
Just that I really feel like But Then I Came Back is so fun. Like, I had so much fun writing it. This Raging Light is extremely serious. I think it's touching, but I had a lot of fun doing both, and having them sitting there next to each other is very exciting. So
now we're going to do something that we do in each edition of Author-ized, and that's called Buckles One-Liners. And we ask our authors to pick up one of their books, open to any page, read a brief passage, and talk a little bit about it to our viewers.
Okay, so, let me see.
Good luck, Estelle.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, this is a good one. So this is from But Then I Came Back. Do you want me to orient you as to where we are?
Whatever you think.
This is where Eden and this boy she's met in the hospital are finally having a conversation. And this is just post Eden having seen something that she doesn't know whether it's real or not. Mm-hmm. Okay. It freaked me out so badly. Joe took me to Digby's car at the hospital parking lot, and we sat in his truck and talked until I felt normal enough to drive. And that's when all the bad feelings went away and everything got totally awesome, and Joe told me about himself. He likes fantasy novels of the Piers Anthony variety with centaurs and Pegasus and sexy cyborgs. He likes country music and seafood and the feel of dirt on his fingers, but not underneath his fingernails, so he always carries a Swiss Army knife so he can get it out. He hates school, always has, but has applied to a couple of state schools anyway because his dad made him. He hates not having friends, not caring about the same things other people do, getting a job, making money, raising a family. None of it makes sense to him. He wants to visit every wonder and learn to fit everything he needs into an army bag, so he's free to go anywhere, anytime. He wants to travel the world, to see what's out there. He would be an astronaut, except he can't because of the math involved. But he suspects space is the coolest place there is, with all that silence, all those stars, and so much less gravity.
Mm. Lovely. Beautiful.
Thanks.
No.
It really was random, by the way.
Mm-hmm. I believe you. Okay, so thank you so much, Estelle, for joining us today.
Thank you
to find out more about Estelle, you can go to her website, estellelaure.com, and be sure to run to the library or your bookstores and grab This Raging Light. And come April, be sure to get would you call it a follow-up novel?
Sure, I call it a companion.
A companion novel. But then I came back. So thank you again, Estelle. You are terrific. I wish you so much success with both books. And thanks for joining us on Author-ized.
Thank you very much, Arlene.
And thank all of you for joining us today. So stop back soon for inspiring authors talking about their inspiring books.